Hey, it's Luke on this Thursday. Hope you're doing okay today. In the next few days, I'll be posting a re-edit of the weight loss documentary on my second channel, Baxels. The links are in the top comment below. Now, onto the stories. Non-American perspective, it is not carbs, but something is wrong with American food. I see a lot of people talking about carbs in weight loss form. This is a little strange to me because I come from a country where literally every person eats rice, every single meal of the day almost, and rice, Japan, probably constitutes 50% of that meal as well. And nobody is fat, maybe 1 in 50 people or something, but you don't see fat people normally ever despite most of what everyone is eating being rice. However, when I came to America for studies, after about 1 year, I start to gain weight, almost 10 kilograms. After being normal weight my entire life and never even thinking about weight, I do not even eat a bunch of sodas and candies and things either. I do not know what is wrong with the food in America, but there is something wrong. I think you should not feel bad about getting overweight in this country. I also suggest if you want to lose weight and you can, move to Japan. I'm also curious if anyone who has more knowledge knows what the problem could actually be with American food, or has had similar experiences, besides just the portions being too big, especially in restaurants. Some restaurants my friends take me to have more food than when we would eat an entire day in Japan. To me, it feels more addictive also, but I don't have the knowledge to know why. I live in Canada, but I can concur we have a similar problem over here. I figured out that if I cook my own meals from scratch every day, including desserts, I can keep a healthy weight no problem. The issue is with packaged, semi-prepared or restaurant foods. They put too much sugars and fats. Even salad dressing is so highly caloric that sometimes a restaurant salad is as much as a cheeseburger in calories. So I ask for the salad dressing on the side and just dip my fork in it into the greens. There are ways to go around it. Also, sometimes the ground meat they use can be more fatty than what I would choose at home for my do-it-yourself cheeseburger. From an American, added sugar is everywhere in packaged food. Portions are huge in restaurants. Save for a select few major cities, Americans don't walk anywhere, we drive. Americans generally have pretty terrible work-life balance. Couple that with our negligible social safety net and complete lack of social services that are well established given in much of the rest of the first world, our collective stress and cortisol levels are through the roof. What can that lead to? Overeating. A lot of poor regions of America are food deserts, where it is incredibly difficult for people living there to access and afford fresh, whole foods on a regular basis, so they eat more prepared and packaged goods. Those are the big ones in my mind. Blaming carbs is an oversimplification of the problem. Most processed foods, fast foods, and junk foods are full of highly refined carbohydrates and low-quality, unhealthy fats, don't have much fiber or protein, and are deficient in a wide variety of micronutrients. These foods are carefully engineered to be hyper-palatable, habit-forming, and not very satiating, making them easy to overconsume. This is great for these companies' bottom lines, but not so good for the population's waistline. A wide variety of cultural and economic changes in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s resulted in people becoming far more dependent on processed foods, fast foods, and junk food. There were fewer stay-at-home moms, leading to an increase in latchkey kids who had to make more snacks and meals for themselves, more divorces in single-parent households, leading for people finding quick and easy ways for busy parents to feed their kids, a massive growth in television, leading to people looking for ways to eat that didn't interrupt their television time. The kids who grew up eating these foods as part of a healthier diet became adults who ate them more excessively and gave them to their children without thinking. We now live in a world where people have been dependent in some form on these foods for 2 or 3 generations. People are so detached from good healthy eating, in some cases, that vegetables and fruits are disgusting to them. Getting them to eat a healthy breakfast instead of Pop-Tarts, Fruit Loops, or Eggo waffles and syrup is a big challenge. It's not necessarily carbohydrates that are the problem. Baked boiled potatoes, sweet potatoes, rice, barley, and a wide variety of vegetables, fruits, and whole grains are fine, but a diet high in highly refined carbohydrates is not healthy. It's not just America being less healthy, it's also Japan being healthier. Here in Indonesia, everyone gets diabetes and a paunch as they age, because virtually every meal consists of some combination of white rice, fried noodles and rice, fried chicken, instant noodles, and or various kinds of fritters, and tea with sugar piled at the bottom of the glass multiple times per day. Plus, Indonesians walk less than in any other country, studies show. I think you're right on target with this. American food, anything pre-made or pre-packaged, has a lot of added sugar, a lot. It's hard to avoid unless you're cooking 100% from scratch, and that's both expensive and time-consuming. Also, unless they live in a large city in the US and have no access to a car, or their public transportation option requires a lot of walking, most Americans just don't walk. Seems like one of the easiest ways to stay fit is having to use walking as a transportation method. I definitely put on weight as soon as I moved from a large city to some place that required I drive everywhere. And then I put on lots more weight when the pandemic hit and I was too scared to even leave my yard. Non-American here who gained way too much weight in the US and almost lost it all once I moved away. I swear, the food in the US makes you hungrier. I'm someone that typically can go hours without food, but in the US, I felt like I was hungry and irritable constantly. My energy levels would dip really low often, and I found myself reaching for snacks or having larger portions to combat that. I also found that I was never satiated in the US and would often eat until I was physically full. This is, again, very unusual for me, as I usually get pretty strong satiety signals when I'm 60 to 70% full. It made it really easy to overeat snacks, and before I realized it, I'm feeling physically sick from the food I had, but have no idea how I still don't feel satisfied. On the other hand, with Asian snacks and desserts, mostly not processed, manufactured, half-quarter portions are enough, and I mostly eat them just to get a taste for the food. I feel very satisfied after a small portion, and I don't think about having more constantly. The portions in the US are also huge, and it is really easy to overeat. Eventually, I started asking for to-go boxes when ordering the meal and putting away food before eating a reasonable portion, but this is so annoying and stressful to me, to be constantly aware of portion sizes and needing to eat less. I'm currently in Asia and enjoy just being able to go out and eat, receive small, reasonable portions of food, and just eat my food until I'm satisfied. There are so many more things I noticed, but again, not sure why the food in the US is so different. I'm an American who lived in South Korea for a few years and immediately gained a bunch of weight when I came back to the States. In my case, I was walking drastically less in the States, would be walking all day in Seoul just to get to my job and then anywhere else I wanted to go, while in the US I mostly drive and need to actively choose to exercise. And I realized in Korea I wasn't really eating processed food so much, while in America, processed foods are much more common. I'm military and stationed in South Korea, but I noticed a huge disparity with our chow halls. This one is plain white rice, baked chicken, plain steamed veggies, and a full fresh bar if you don't want the other things. The ones back home, everything was cooked in some sort of oil and no lean baked meats available. Fresh bars lacked healthy salad greens. I'm gonna be a bit sad when I leave. I think it's hard for folks to understand to what degree food science, and US food science particularly, has pushed the salt, sugar, fat envelope in virtually every prepared food you buy. Packaged food, restaurant meals, etc. When you talk to fitness health people about food and they keep pushing whole food, it's not because whole food is intrinsically healthier than processed food. Processing does not make food automatically less healthy. The processed version has the same chemicals in it. But if you get whole foods, you actually know what it is. If you get prepared and processed foods, the only way to know what's been added is to break down the numbers on the label. Most people are misinformed about carbs. They aren't inherently bad, but low-carb diets like keto can be very successful, so people equate carbs to being bad without actually understanding the science behind different weight loss techniques. There's a ton of bad info out there in our society about weight loss. The real culprit for Americans is added sugar and portion sizes. That's what makes the Mean Girls "is butter a carb? Yes" joke so funny. The word carb in certain sectors has just started to mean bad food. My boyfriend got diagnosed with high blood pressure yesterday, and we were looking at cutting down salt. I cannot believe how much salt is in everything. Everything we looked at contains 30 to 40% of the daily salt intake, and we go way over that. I'm sure it's the same with fats and sugar. Packaged food just goes way over what we're supposed to be intaking. I think it's less about what's in the food and more about the lifestyle in general. Obviously, portions are bigger, and all events in food are booze-centric. Thanksgiving is so much about food, people get upset if you change the menu. The Super Bowl is an excuse to indulge in straight-up gluttony. You can't even have people over to visit for an hour without putting out snacks for them to eat, or you're a bad host. I haven't been to Japan, but I've been to a lot of other countries in Asia. I'm not sure exactly how similar, but I took transit everywhere, which involves walking to the stops and walking from the stops, and often standing while on transit. Plus, it's often easier to just walk from one place to the next rather than get back on transit. Plus, every place had stairs and never any elevators, so many stairs. In America, you gotta drive everywhere. No walking, you even drive when the place is practically across the street, and you park as close to the place as you're going as possible. When I went out, it was about the activity, not the food. I went bowling in China, and we played 10 games back to back. My muscles were sore the next day, there were no food ordered, and we were there to bowl. My score was important. My form was corrected to coach me to play better. In America, we play 2 games and order food and drinks and mostly sit around eating, drinking, and talking. No one cares how well you play, it's just something fun to do while you socialize. Same game, totally different experience. The whole culture is about indulgence, whether that be food or comfort. It's easy to gain weight with that mentality.